Feliciano and AJ Epenesa had a boxing match of their own to start off week 3 of OTAs. And what exactly does Brian Daboll think the state of the Buffalo Bills offense is going into the 2021 season? All coming up on today's edition of the Bills Mafia Report. Yo ho ho, Bills Mafia. Welcome to yet another edition of the Bills Mafia Report. And yes, you read that title correctly. We had a pretty interesting interview go on today with offensive coordinator Brian Daboll on exactly where he thought the Buffalo Bills offense was going to be. I thought this was very interesting because, like most coaches, they're going to sprinkle some coach speak just to sort of, jive the fans' minds. It's simply page 6 of the overall playbook of gaining excitement. He just so happens to think that the offense is still a work in progress, and for the most part, it is, right? I mean, there's definitely not going to be any perfect offense out there. We all know our weaknesses, but can we address them? Brian Daboll is going to answer each and every single question of that, and then we're also going to talk about how Epenesa and Feliciano ended up trading blows today over an interception. So very excited to get into those topics. However, I do want to start off with just a couple of announcements. Number 1, I am giving away either a PS5 or an Xbox Series X on July 2nd. In order to enter this competition, it is very easy. All you need to do is be a subscriber to this YouTube channel, screenshot proof of that, and DM that screenshot over to me on Instagram at RealDanMitchell while following me on Instagram as well. The second you do that, voila, you are entered into the contest and you have an opportunity of taking home a next-gen console. And last announcement, of course, smash the out of that like button for me right damn now. So yeah, Bills Mafia, I wanted to start off with this first story. I was scrolling through the internet, I was scrolling through Twitter, really trying to put together my video for today. And one thing that really ended up sticking out to me was the fact that Feliciano and AJ Epenesa ended up getting into a fist fight. So bad that Feliciano ended up walking off the field and not returning. Now, there are a couple of storylines. There was definitely a couple of players that ended up putting in their 2 cents of what exactly happened. It sounds like AJ Epenesa ended up picking off Josh Allen, which first off blew my mind. A defensive end with an interception. Good for you, Epenesa. Josh Allen, I'm fine with him getting them out of the way during the first couple of weeks of OTAs. Get them out of your system. We don't need any of that in 2021. But then apparently Epenesa brought it back into the end zone. Feliciano was pissed off. We know how protective Feliciano is of Josh Allen. Ran all the way down there, and then, of course, they ended up arguing, and then fists started to fly. Apparently, this is a rare occurrence in Bills OTAs. The culture that McDermott and Bean have created doesn't call for a lot of situations like this to occur in general. Harrison Phillips had this to say about what happened.
It gets a little competitive out there. Obviously, we all know the tempo is and what's really happening right now in early June. But at the same time, tempers flare. There's sometimes a boiling point, and this guy's going a little harder than this guy, and that's just things that come with the game. But that's also what brings people together. Brothers fight all the time, but they love each other, 100%. So, it's just football. Nothing unexpected. It's just NFL football.
And ladies and gentlemen, he is absolutely right. This is football right here. I'm not sure about you guys, but back when I was a kid, if somebody ever beat me in Monopoly or one-on-one basketball, I wouldn't talk to them for a week. It's just how competitors are. I'm not worried about the culture. I guarantee you the both of them are to link it up for a nice ice-cold brewski and laughing it off. The main story today was the interview that Brian Daboll gave after OTAs concluded this morning. And let's just say that he unpacked a lot, especially when it came out to the offense. First off, he did say that our offense was still a work in progress, which I just so happen to think was a bit of an exaggeration. I think that we are going into the 2021 season minus any type of improvements, a top 5 offense going into it. But as said previously, this is clear coaches speak. However, he was asked to address a couple of things, specifically within particular units in the offense, starting off with the run game, right? I mean, the run game was probably hands down the biggest upset that we had. And Brian Daboll had this to say. And there's yards, and then there's efficiency, and there's all these numbers you can look at. There were a lot of good runs, and there were some runs that weren't as good as we'd like them to be. You're always trying to be better. You want to be the best offense you can be. At the end of the day, we're going to try to do whatever we need to do to win a football game. That's really all that matters to us. A lot of fans, and even me, I'm not going to lie to you, I'm a huge advocate of complaining about the overall production of Singletary and Zach Moss in 2020. When Brian Daboll was asked, he seems to think the opposite. This is what he had to say about the tandem that took place into 2020 and whether or not he still has confidence in them going into 2021. They're both two young players, and I'd say they can play on all three downs for us. They understand what we're trying to get accomplished in the run game. They understand the protections. Nowadays, you're gonna have two or something, three backs playing for you. I think the good thing about those guys is I feel confident in their knowledge of what we're asking them to do and how they need to do it. Clearly, when you're looking at the running game from Brian Daboll's perspective, he's looking at it as in both of these guys are still absolutely young. And let's be honest, listen, I reserve the right to change my mind, and I think that I did change my mind when it came down to it. A lot of the Dom Mafia was trying to convince me, guess what? You were successful. I think the Buffalo Bills made such a heavy transition into the passing game that the offensive line did not do our running game any favors whatsoever, because they just didn't have enough experience in 2020 in run blocking, because all they were doing was letting Josh Allen absolutely litter the field with his dimes to our stellar wide receiving core. So at the end of the day, Daboll was saying that being balanced is good when you're winning, but being balanced is terrible when you're losing. So from the sounds of this, it sounds like the running back core that we have right now is going to be here to stay for at least 2021, and it doesn't seem like we're trying to go on ahead and pick up and become a run first or even a 50-50 pass run team. It sounds like Daboll wants to stick with exactly what works. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Next main topic that Daboll ended up bringing up was Emmanual Sanders. Now, we all knew the impact that John Brown had for the Buffalo Bills for the past 2 years. In 2020, during our AFC Championship run, John Brown was a very good second fiddle to Stephon Diggs, in my opinion. But obviously, as we all know, we ended up releasing John Brown for cap space reasoning, and then we end up bringing in Emmanuel Sanders. Very funny, because a lot of Buffalo Bills fans had Emmanuel Sanders being the number one target the Bills wanted to acquire before the Stephon Diggs trade happened. Now that he's on the Bills, a lot of people are wondering, is he going to be better than John Brown? Is he going to be a guy that can easily fill in the shoes that John Brown put in the overall production that he was able to give us in 2020? And Daboll seems to believe so. When asked about Emmanuel Sanders, he had this to say. And I think we're all excited to have Emmanuel. He provides great veteran presence. He's flexible in terms of being able to play inside and outside. He's had a lot of experience. He's played on a lot of different teams and in a lot of different systems, and he has a skill set that we like. Just getting to know Emmanuel these last months, he's got a real good football mind. He's an instinctive player. We'll give him as much as he can handle, which to this point, he's been able to handle all the different spots that we put him in. I do think it's important that they understand everyone's position. There's 5 eligible receivers on every play, and anyone can be in any spot. So again, I think his experiences will serve him well. Now, you probably have heard me mention before that I think that there's about to be a route running clinic that is about to be happening in Buffalo. You have Stephon Diggs, Emmanuel Sanders, and Cole Beasley, probably some of the best route runners that football has to offer. The way that Daboll said that he can line up outside or inside makes Emmanuel Sanders essentially our Swiss Army knife. We can put him anywhere, and due to his experience that he's had with previous teams, he should be a pretty dangerous weapon for Josh Allen, and yet another player to worry about and draw off all those potential double teams that if we didn't have a player like Emmanuel Sanders, Stephon Diggs would easily draw. So I'm very excited about Emmanuel Sanders being added to this offense myself, and Daboll seems to be the exact same thing. And the last notable mention was overall Josh Allen's progress, according to Daboll. And he basically reiterated the exact same thing that Josh Allen said when he was most recently interviewed about things that he was working on during the offseason. And I think Josh has a good offseason plan in terms of things that he's done since he's been here. It's like a golf swing, right? His mechanics, his follow through, his base, his movement in the pocket. He does those things, I would say, religiously throughout the offseason, and we get him back here along with all the other quarterbacks and coaches. And each year, he's obviously learned a little bit more about the system. We've tried to tailor the system specifically to him. There's a lot of good give and take between the two of us in terms of things he feels comfortable with and maybe things we can do a better job of. He's the consummate pro in terms of he's never satisfied, and none of us really are, never satisfied with what you did this previous year. It seems to be that Josh Allen is really going to be entering into his stride. I mean, this is year 4. We've already seen a glimpse of what this kid could do. And if he can remain to stay as consistent as this damn kid was in 2020 and say that he is able to improve some of that short range accuracy and maybe just spread the ball even more than he did in 2020, it's going to be absolutely scary. Dow Mafia, I ended up finding this perfect article from the Democrat and Chronicle. I believe it was from Sal Moriano. And he highlights all of these stories and then a couple of other stories as well. He touches on Mitch Trubisky, he touches on Jacob Hollister, and he touches about a few other things when it comes to our offense that Brian Daboll did say. So say that you want to hear or listen or read about the full interview from Daboll. That link's going to be in my description. Highly recommend that you check it out in case you're interested. Dow Mafia, thank you so much for tuning in to yet another edition of the Dow Mafia Report. I will see you tomorrow. And before I let you go, always remember, let's go Buffalo.